Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Adrian Welsh, and I'm the Application Support Engineer for Juniper Systems. One of the primary applications that I support is Juniper Aspect Field Mapping Solution Software. I'm joined today by Jim Benson, and he is our Product Manager for Juniper Aspect. And let me know if you can't hear me very well. The best way to do this is by typing into the little chat box and saying something along the lines of, you can't hear me, I can speak up, or I can try adjusting my phone to see if it makes it work for everybody. Today we're going to go over a real brief training webinar on mobile data collection and GPS with Juniper Aspect. I say brief because there are lots of topics to cover, and I want to try and fit all this into a 1-hour webinar or less. The purpose of this training is to maximize your efficiency in using the mobile software and understand GPS issues, as well as help anyone else with any particular issues that you may have. The main audiences for this webinar are people who are using Juniper Aspect or using the former product of IntuiTrace, but it also is open for anyone who wants a better understanding of the software as well. And here's the training outline for today's webinar, and you can see how I have delimited the time for each topic. There are several topics in this list, and I want to spend about 5 to 10 minutes on each one of these with a few questions and answers in the middle and some questions and answers at the end of this presentation as well. And so we'll quickly look at the desktop side just to get started and to show how you would set up a project, and then we'll jump into the mobile settings and mobile data collection. For asking questions along the way, you can type into the little chat box that's provided by GoToWebinar. Jim will be reading some of these questions and responding to some as we go along, but during the question and answer sessions, we'll go over some of the more specific questions, and just whenever you feel like you have a question or anything, you can just ask questions along during this time or during the webinar. If we don't get to your question, or if you have more questions afterwards, you can email me at support@junipersys.com. I'll go over the contact information again at the end of this presentation and show you the email address so you don't have to write it down now. And if there's any last-minute questions, we can discuss those at the end of the webinar as well. And let's get started with the software demonstration. So, in going over this training, I kind of want to describe this as if I were doing a job in the field. This is kind of the process that I would take in getting everything set up. So the first thing to do is open up Juniper Aspect. And so if you have Juniper Aspect download, this is what it looked like on your screen. And in the former webinar, we've gone over the desktop version of the software. So I don't want to go over too many topics because we've covered this already. And if you want to see that webinar, we have it recorded on our YouTube channel, and it's also on our website. We'll look at that a little bit later at the end of this webinar. So in general, when you first install Juniper Aspect on your desktop computer, the next thing to do, the best thing to do next is to install it onto your mobile computer. And so having your mobile computer installed, or having your mobile computer plugged into your computer, you can go through the installing process. And to know you have your mobile computer, your mobile handheld computer plugged in, it'll say over here on the side connected to, and it'll be the name of your handheld there. And also, this Mesa picture here will have orange bumpers. If it were not connected, to have gray bumpers. And just to alleviate any kind of confusion, if you have an Archer unit or any other unit that's not a Mesa unit, it'll still show a picture of the Mesa unit. It's just kind of how we have it set up for now. So going over the mobile installation, so just you roll your mouse over mobile deployment, and then you click on the install button here. And since I already have it installed, it tells me which version I have installed, which is the current one that I have here. It's an alpha version, so it's not one that you all would have. But in any case, there's two different product levels I kind of want to talk about. There's a standard level and a professional level. The standard level is kind of the basic level that has a few things that are restricted from the professional. The professional level has unlimited access to anything that you can use on the software. And just in general, if you first purchased a standard level license and wanted to upgrade to professional level, you just go to this change button here. The first thing you do is you call us and you pay the difference to get the upgrade. We'll give you a serial number, and you click on this change button here, and you just enter in the serial number we gave you. And so it's really as simple as that. As soon as you enter in your new number, the upgrades will be in place and you can start using them. But most of y'all know that and you've seen this, and so I'll get out of the screen. So the first thing that I would do if I were starting a new project from scratch is I'd go into my projects here and I'd go into Manage Projects, and let's just create a new one. So the first thing it's going to do is search for my existing projects. I have my Mesa connected and everything, so it might go a little bit slower. So I'm going to go to this plus button down at the bottom for creating a new project. And just for simplicity, I'm just going to call it 1, 1, and 1. Well, it's because if I put it, once you have these labeled, they're all sorted alphabetically, and having a number will be ahead of letters, and so this will be the top of my list here. So let's open this new project here. Right now you see it's not synchronized because I have my yellow light bulb here. But I don't want to synchronize just yet. I want to add some data to it and get a base map. So I'm going to open up this project. Hopefully it'll open for me cooperatively. Close this. And it's opening. There it goes. Okay. So when you first open a blank project, the first thing you're going to see is the whole world map. And this address bar will pop up on the side here. And so I'm going to try to zoom into my particular address here for Juniper Systems. You can see it. I'm not sure if you can see this very quickly now, but as I'm typing along, it starts updating the drop-down list down here, so I can choose from one of these options here to where to zoom to. So here's the address for the facility I work at. Click on that. It should zoom to the address. And it went pretty quickly. There it goes. Okay, so this is our building here. And just for starting off, I'm going to add a few parts, a few components that I know are already out there on the field, just to kind of show you how to do this as well. So I'm going to go into Start Editing. So click on this green arrow. This starts an edit session. And then I'm going to add some objects. So I click on this Add button here. And I have a lot of object catalogs, and so most of you won't have this many. I just kind of have a bunch of examples and some stuff I've been working on. But I'm going to go into the default part catalog. This gets installed with every instance of Juniper Aspect. And let's just go and add a remote control valve. And I'm not too concerned which one I'm adding, so I'm just going to go into all the objects of remote control valves and just pick one. Let's just pick this hunter one right here. So I'm going to add this. Let's just say it's down in this little grassy area. You can't really see it too well, but it's really small. And once I click here to add it, I have options of changing my label. Remote control valve is 1 is fine with me, and if I want to add comments, like it's broken or needs maintenance, something like that, I'll do that, but I don't want to do it right now. I'm going to save this. And then I want to add a valve coverage for this valve here. So I'm going to go to my Select tool, click on my valve, and then I'm going to add valve coverage. I have a button that pops up once I select the valve. And let's just say the valve coverage is a grassy area right here. It's real small. I'm just going to double click to finish it. Let's zoom in a little bit. Oops, I'm in the wrong direction. I'm going to draw a box and zoom in here. There we go. Let's just get a little closer so it looks nicer. Okay, here we go. So here's my remote control valve and my valve coverage area. I don't like how this looks. It's like this dark red color, so I'm going to select it, and I'm going to change the symbology just to make it look a little nicer. I'm going to change the opacity, make it a little bit transparent, about right in the middle, 50%. I guess that red color is not too bad. Let me see what I have in my drop-down list. And I could choose any color I need to. We'll just stick with that red color and hit OK. And once I click off of it, you'll see it's sort of, you can kind of see behind it with the grass behind it. I kind of want to change how this looks, just move the geometry around. Move this corner over here, just to kind of have it emulate more of what this field looks like. So it looks more or less like that. Let me click off it. There we go. I'm going to drop my list down here, go to Save Edits. Let's add one more component. I'm going to pick from the default part catalog, and let's just say it's a controller. And again, I'm not too concerned which kind of controller it is. I just want to give you an example of adding some parts here. And because I have 400 of them and I'm connected to all this stuff, it's taking a little bit of time. There it goes. And let's just scroll down to Eritreol. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to add this in the corner right here. And again, I don't care about the label. I'm going to call it controller 1. That's fine with me. And hit save. Okay, so the next thing you do after you add a few initial things is you want to download the base map. This is something that some people might forget, and it's not always imperative to have a base map, but sometimes it helps us to have a general reference. So this button up here says download base map. And let me tell you two things about this button here. If I'm zoomed out too far, so let me zoom out a little bit. My mouse is kind of buggy. Okay. Getting some lockups here. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more. And so we see now my download base map button has been grayed out. I can't use it anymore. This is because I've been zoomed out too far. And the whole purpose is we want you to be in an area that we can download and cache to the mobile computer that's not too big. When you have too big of an area, it gets too big of a memory size, and it kind of bogs down your mobile unit there. And so we have a limitation of about 3,000 square meters, a big square here. So if I zoom in just a little bit more, let's draw a box dot this side, and now my base map, my download base map button has become active again. So I can now cache this base map, but I don't want this in this giant map here. I want to just see the building here that I'm concerned with and some of the parts I'm going to be mapping. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer, and I'm going to click on the download base map button. This will bring up a progress bar. You can see it says creating base map cache, and it went pretty quick because I'm zoomed in pretty close, and it's finished. So I'm going to hit close. And let me stop my editing by clicking on this red stop button here. And I have unsaved. I do want to save them, yes. Okay, good. Now I'm done with this map. We're going to go to the mobile site. I'm going to close this map out. And so the first thing I need to do is synchronize this map. So these blue back and forth arrows synchronize the project to my mobile computer. So when I click this, it'll put it onto my mobile computer, which is my Mesa. It should take a little bit of time. It's not too big of a project because it only has 3 parts mapped on it. When you have a really large project, it'll take a lot longer. And now that I have this synchronized, I see the green light bulb, which means that both projects are up to date with each other, or both sides, the desktop and the mobile side. And now I have the copy base map button active. This is one thing you need to do afterwards, so don't forget to do this. When I click this button, it'll draw a progress bar that is basically copying the base map I downloaded to my handheld unit, my Mesa. Okay, so now I have the project and the base map copied over to my Mesa. There's one more thing you can't forget. So you go back to the main screen and go into your object catalogs. This is something that I forget a lot, and this is something you just need to remember. You need to push your object catalog over to your mobile computer. And so I'm going to be using the default part catalog that I have here. So I'm going to synchronize this over using my arrows. And it has about roughly 2,000 common irrigation parts, and so it'll take a little bit of time to move it over, but not too much time. You can, okay, so now it has a green light bulb, means I'm up to date. And I want to just add one more thing. I have this list of Utah water-wise plants. And so if I want to do some landscaping, I create this list by just going to the Utah water-wise, their website, and just download a list of plants and just do it into the system. And I can use these plants now for doing some landscape design. Okay, now I have that pushed over. Now I have both my objects pushed over, my object catalogs and my projects. That's what you need to do before you get onto your mobile computer. Just one more thing I want to show you just for in general. Under the Tools option here is where you find your check for updates. And so whenever we release an update to the software, this is where you'd find the update, and you would download it from there. The Preferences just lets you go between units of measurement from feet to meters. The About screen, this tells you which level license you have. So I have a professional level license, and it tells me when my expiration date is for this license. If your license has expired, this will let you know, and there'll be a way for you to go into our website and renew it. But that'll be a question for another time. If you have questions about that, feel free to email us and ask us. And one more thing to show you on the tools is the Help button here. This is a really good tool for you. This basically just opens up the user manual. And so if you have any questions about anything about the software, the user manual is a great reference guide to know how to get help on that. So let me get out of this screen here and open up my Mesa. I'm going to downsize this. And I'm going to be using a tool called MyMobiler. Once it shows up on my list here. Okay. MyMobiler is a free software program you can download from the internet. It's just mymobiler.com. And what it does is it allows you to show your mobile screen on your desktop computer when you're connected. And it's a great tool for doing presentations or demonstrations. It's also just, I mean, if you don't feel like tapping on the screen of your mobile computer, you can just click the buttons here. And so let me get into my Juniper Aspect. Normally you have it on the shortcut bar at the bottom, but I have too many things installed, so it's not on there for mine. I'm going to scroll to the bottom of my applications list and tap on Juniper Aspect. It'll take a second to open. So one thing I kind of want to let you know is because I have all this stuff connected, I'm connected to GoToWebinar. I have I'm using the Wi-Fi in the building here. It's going to have a little bit of a delay and a little bit of a lag, and so just let you know that's why you might see a delay. So the first thing I want to show you on the mobile screen is the settings options here. So I'm going to tap on the settings button here, and I have three things here. Let's look at About first. About is just similar to the desktop side where it'll show me what level license I have, a professional level license, when my expiration date is, and also how to contact us through tech support or for a phone number. Either way, it works for us. Another thing to show you is the field guide. So this is another quick reference guide to help you out when in the field if you aren't sure how to do a certain function. And it's basically an excerpt from our manual just on the mobile data collection. I'm not going to open that now, but you can take a look at that later when you get a chance. Hit OK. Let's look at the GPS collection settings. Oh, this is my GPS settings. Sorry. So for GPS settings, there's not too many options here. For the Mesa, normally you'll have it on COM2 and a baud rate of 38,400. Mine is a little bit different. Mine's configured differently, so I have it differently, but that's normally what we have it as. And this is all in the user manual as well if you get in a jam. But if you have an Archer with XF101, normally you'll have it on COM3 with a baud rate of 57,600. But again, this is all in the user manual, and it's kind of depending on how your device is set up. I'm going to close out this. I'm going to go to the geometry collection, is what I meant to go into to show you. So in geometry collection, I want to look at collection mode. So in collection mode, there are three ways of collecting your points. And this is more concerned with drawing lines or polygons. So if you're like walking a wire or walking an area of a flower bed or anything, or a parking lot, something like that, you have three ways of collecting your data. There's manual. What manual does is that means I have control over every corner I get to. I'm going to tap on the system to map that point, to map that corner. If I do this based on time, it's a little more of an automatic process where every 7 seconds it's going to take a point. And so this is all about personal preference and kind of based on how you want this to be done. But I can change this time from 7 to, let's say I want to do every 5 seconds, or something like that. As well as distance, this similar situation. Since my units of measurement are in feet, as I have down here, every 5 feet is going to take a point for that line or that polygon that you're mapping. And some of you may ask which one is the best one to choose. Personally, I like using manual because I feel like I have more control over it, but that's kind of just the way I do mapping. If I'm mapping a street, I would probably do one of these collection studies, maybe just like a time setting of every, if I'm going, depending on how fast I'm driving in the truck, I would set every 3 seconds or so, and it would just map that street as I go along. And so it's like I said, it's all a personal preference, and I'm going to keep mine on manual. PDOP. PDOP is position dilution of precision. And so what this means, it's a measurement of your error. And the lower the number, the better. And this is kind of, there's a lot of science that goes into this. So you don't need to be too concerned about how the number is calculated or what it really means to you. But just the best thing to know is the lower the number, the better, kind of like a golf score. what this setting does for me here is, if I'm out in the field collecting some data and my PDOP, I'm going to set mine at 6, and my PDOP is above 6, that means that it won't collect data because I have a threshold set at 6 saying that I only am going to collect data up to this threshold of 6. If it's under 6, I won't have any problems. If it's above 6, then I need to figure out what to do to get a better GPS connection. And we'll go over some tips and tricks on how to get better GPS signals and things like that. I think this is defaultly set at 6, but you can always lower it. I wouldn't recommend going under 3 or so because a lot of times you'll be kind of in a place where you won't have the best PDOT based on there's a big tree nearby or a big building nearby that's causing a lot of problems. But I mean, it's kind of an art and a science, and so you'll learn as you go along. Number of points to average, I'm going to set this down to 5. What this means is every time I collect a point wherever I'm standing, it'll collect 5 points right there, and it'll average the geometry, so it kind of gives me a better indication of where I'm standing. And so with this, the more points you have to collect, the better chance you'll have for better accuracy, but then again, it'll take more time, and so it's kind of a trade-off based on maybe a patience level, a time commitment, and things like that. Every point should be about 1 second. If you have a good PDOP and good geometry, every point will take 1 second. If you don't, it'll take a little bit longer. So 5 points will take roughly 5 seconds. Just for this presentation, I'm going to set this up to 8 just for now. And units of measurement, same thing, feet or meters. And let me go and save this. And that's it for the settings screen. I'm going to close out this and go back to my main screen here. So when I first start this off, I have 2 options. I can create a new project. But since I just made a project for my desktop side and put it on my mobile, I'm going to open a project. I'm going to open that one I just made. I have 2 projects in here. The one I made was called 1, so I'm just going to tap on 1 here, and this is going to open. It's going to take a bit of time. Like I said, I'm connected to my mobiler and to GoToWebinar, and everything's kind of slowing things down. So here you see the 3 things I have mapped. It's kind of hard to read here, but I have my controller, my valve coverage area, and my remote control valve. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit and click on this magnifying glass and draw a box. Just to get a bigger area of where we are. Okay, so you see our parking lot and the building and this grassy area, etc. I'm going to look at my layers list here. This is this button that has stacks of paper on top of each other. It's my layers list. Now in here you can see all my layers. So my remote control valve and valve coverage area, both layers, as well as my controller. And that base map that I downloaded earlier, which is showing right now, is my cached image. If I have an active internet connection, so right now I'm hooked up to the Wi-Fi network here, that means I can get some online imagery as well. And just to kind of denote where this differs on the product level, so between professional and standard level, because I have professional level, I have full access to anything the software offers. If I had the standard level, I would not be able to get this online imagery. And it's good or bad depending on where you are, depending on how much you need to have this imagery. Excuse me. But just in general, that's one of the big factors between the professional level and the standard level for the mobile software. But I'm going to turn these labels off so they just won't get in the way. So I'm going to click this button at the top here. It turns all the labels off, and click Apply. Now I'm back to my screen here. Let's start off by activating the GPS. So I'm going to go to my menu and just enable GPS. When I first start this, you'll see a red exclamation point right in the middle. It went away really quickly because my GPS is already active. And so when you first start, you normally won't have GPS signal right away. It'll have a red circle with a white exclamation point in the middle. Because I'm in a building, I'm getting some kind of choppy GPS. We have a repeater for inside our building just for testing purposes. So I'm just right about here. You can see it's kind of bouncing around. I have a green circle with a red arrow. Let me zoom out just a little bit more so it won't go too crazy. So I just drew a box to zoom out a little bit more. Okay. So normally when you're inside of a building, you won't be getting a GPS signal. The only ways you really can is if you have a repeater, or if you're standing by a big window where GPS signals are coming in through the window. And we don't recommend collecting data that way, mostly because it won't be the best GPS signal that you're getting. So let's start off by, let's say I'm walking somewhere on this map and I want to add an object that I'm mapping. So I want to go into my objects list here by tapping on the word objects. This will bring up all my object catalogs, and so this is the ones I synchronized over, the water-wise plants, the default catalog, and I had also synchronized a tree catalog, but let's just go into the default part catalog for irrigation parts. And let's say I want to map a backflow device, just to show you an example. And I'm not too concerned which one it is, so I want to go to all the parts, all the backflow devices, and just choose this one right here. So once I have my item chosen, it tells me right here, tap anywhere on the map to add. So with GPS active, it'll map right where I'm standing, or where my GPS says I'm standing. So it says I'm right here on top of the building, so I'm going to tap anywhere on the map. It's going to add that part. The first thing it asks you, though, is what do you want to label it as? And defaultly, it puts the name of the object type and puts a number. And these numbers will increase the more that you map. And so if I had multiple devices, they would start increasing in number. But backflow device 1 is fine with me. I'm going to tap on Map It. And here you see my progress bar start growing. And it took the 8 points, so it took about roughly 8 seconds to map that. So you see this red square here is where my object was mapped. And once you start mapping stuff is when your PDOP will start showing up. And so I have a PDOP of 2.7-ish. And so to me, that's good. I'm inside the building, so I can't hope for too much more. You see this drop to 1.5 and 1.7. It'll jump around based on different factors. This SV either stand for satellites viewable or satellite vehicles. And in any case, the maximum you can see at any given time are 12 GPS satellites. And this will tell me how many I'm seeing at this time. So right now I'm seeing between 8 and 9, or right now it says 7 satellites viewable. But 8 or 9 or 7 or even 10, that's a good number to have for how many satellites that you can see out there. If you're seeing 12 out of 12 satellites, you're either in a giant wide open field with a clear view of the sky, or you're getting some kind of interference. And again, like I said, we'll go over those topics a little bit later about interferences and tips and tricks on how to get the best GPS collection. But this is kind of a reference guide of what to look for when you're seeing these numbers here. Now some buttons I want to explain to you as well. This capture button here, since I'm still mapping this item here, this backflow device. So let's say that I don't like that it's here. I walk somewhere else. It's actually over here. So I'm going to click capture, and this will map it right where I'm standing again. So it'll take it away from where it is now and then move it over there. So now it's underneath under my green circle there. That's where I'm standing. So I'm done with this part here. I'm going to tap on Finish. And this gives me my options of changing geometry, adding attributes, or taking a picture. Just as a disclaimer, the picture option is only available with the professional level license and with a Mesa unit. And so because Mesa unit has a camera and our Archer unit does not have a camera, that's kind of one of the big differences there. I'll go over taking a picture a little bit later, but I want to show you adding the attributes to this. Right now I don't have too many options for adding attributes, or editing or adding attributes, but let's just say I wanted to add a note here of this backflow device needs fixing, and so I can add that into the comments. If I have if I have more stuff I can add, like a drop-down list of part condition, things like that, then I could do that here. But I don't have that stuff built into this for this particular item. I'm going to save that. So I'm back here again, and I'm going to hit save, and so that finishes out that object that I mapped. Now there's two ways of adding a part to your map. One is by using GPS and one is by doing it manually. So I'm going to show you how to do it manually. Let's say in this grassy area up here towards the north end of the building, I know there's some plants mapped there, or some plants there that I want to think about adding. So I'm going to tap on my objects. Now I'm going to my plant catalog that I created from earlier. And it doesn't matter what it is. Let's see. Let's just say it's a perennial. So I'm going to perennials, and I have quite a few of them in here. Let's just pick one at random. Let's just say it's just a common yarrow. Now here is my part here is Achaphilea. Okay. So here it gives me the same thing, which says tap anywhere on the map to add. So the first thing I do is I'm showing you how to add a point without using GPS. So I'm going to tap anywhere on the map to add. The first thing you do. The next thing I asked you is what do you want to name this, and perennials 1 is fine. So I'm going to tap on map it, but just to let you know that I'm going to do something quick here in a second. I'm going to tap on map it, and it's going to start collecting GPS data, but I want to stop it. So I click on stop before it finishes adding that. So I have now stopped my mapping, and right now it's kind of waiting on me to do something. So I'm going to take my pan tool, I'm going to scroll up here a little bit. Once the map refreshes, I want to add my yarrow plant up here somewhere in this grassy area. So I'm going to go to my menu here and tap on Add Point. And so now I have a circle here in the middle. Anywhere I tap now is where the point is going to be added. Let's just say it's in this corner down here. So now tapped here, you can see there's a red box, and that's where my point is added. So that's how you'd add something without using GPS. You either stop the GPS collection, or if you don't have GPS at all, you just go into your menu and tap on Add Point. I kind of want to quickly show you the menu again. In here, when you're in the editing screen, I have a couple of options. I can go to my field guide, so I could take a look at that field guide if I need some help. I can turn my GPS off. I can also go into my collection settings and say, let's just say that I don't like that it's collecting 8 points, or averaging 8 points on every point. So I think that's too little. I'm going to go and put it at 10, just for the heck of it. I'm going to save that. So here's where I can change my settings while I'm mapping. I'm going to pan back up to my plant that I mapped so I can just see it. And there it is. Okay, so now I'm finished with that. I'm going to tap on Finish. And it gives me the same stuff I can add as the attributes, take a picture, and change geometry, but I'm not concerned with that right now, so I'm going to tap on Save. There's one more thing I wanted to show you before I get into some questions and answers is, what if you have a part that you're wanting to map, but it's not in your object catalog? And this is what you would do. So go into your objects. This is when you'd use your custom parts catalog. And this is kind of where you do your own creation in the field. And right now it kind of has some stuff built in. Property, landscaping, and buildings are all defaultly there. I made one called water meters the other day. But let's say it's I'm not even sure, just some kind of tree that was in your system or something like that. So I'm going to go to New. And the first thing I do is I have to create this new object type. Let's just say it's called tree, just for whatever. And I have to pick a geometry. It's either a point, line, or polygon. I'm going to make it as a point. And I'm going to add this. So now I have to give it a description because it's a required field. I'm going to drop down this list and choose my tree. And let's say this description of this item I want to map is I'm not sure, an aspen tree. I could add other things, the object number, manufacturer, but that's not important here. I'm just going to hit Add. So now I have the ability to add or map an aspen tree, and it's already ready for me to go. I just tap anywhere to add on the map, and I'm just going to, well, let's see. I'm going to tap to add it here, and click on Map It. And it's going to put it where my GPS is standing, so it's on top of the building over here, which would be kind of cool to have a tree growing on top of the building. And I'm finished with that, so I'm going to tap on Finish. And I can go into the attributes, etc., but I'm not going to worry about that, so I'm going to tap on Save. So that's what you would do if you had some kind of item you want to map that's not in your catalog list. You just kind of create your own. And one more thing before the question and answering I want to show you is these buttons, these icons at the top here. These are the 3 most recently mapped parts that I have done. So this one here is the backflow device. I can tap on it to see what it is. So it drops down. If I have more than one backflow device, it'll put it in this list here. This is the Watts brand. This one here was my yarrow plant, and this one here is my aspen tree. So if I wanted to map these again, it's a real quick reference to just go into here and select it and add it. So if I want to add another aspen tree, I select it and I just tap anywhere and add it where my GPS is. But I don't want to add another one right now. And so we come to a point for some questions and answers. And Jim, I wanted to ask you, have you gotten any questions along the way?
We've got a lot of good questions. They're keeping me busy here.
Excellent.
But let me just run through a couple of them that I think would be of interest to everybody. And one, going clear back when you set up the handheld or the project on the handheld initially, one question was, it seems to be an extra step to download the base map. And the reason for that is that it is a little bit redundant sometimes, but you have to remember that first you have to define the area and capture that data when you're in the project. Then at the synchronization function, in addition to synchronizing the data, you have to download the base map. Once you've downloaded that base map, you should be in a position not to have to do that again unless you want to. In other words, as long as that project remains on your mobile device, you can update or synchronize the data, and that imagery that you cached should stay there. The reason that we don't do it every time automatically when we synchronize the project is simply because it takes a long time, and I think it would probably be a waste of time to do that. So the other one was we wanted to know if you could. They wanted to know if you could rotate the maps on the screen, and with the system, we aren't able to rotate them. Everything, just for keeping it simple, is displayed with north at the top of the screen, and that is both on the mobile device as well as on the desktop. One other question or comment about when you're creating custom parts, and that is if you find something that you want to add in the field that isn't in a database and you add it, that part will always remain with this particular project. In other words, whenever you look at it, see it, it will be part of that. But it doesn't add it to any databases automatically. And the reason for that is that most people want to be very careful and control what items are in the database. If you want it in the database, you're going to have to go in and manually add that under that selection. So there you have it.
Okay, thanks. Those are good questions. And the more questions that you have, you can just type into the little chat box there on GoToWebinar, or you can email us or call us later after the webinar. We can definitely go over any kind of topic. Oh. Okay, sorry, I have some technical difficulties here. All right, the next thing I wanted to show you is taking a picture of an object with using the Mesa unit. Like, again, I told you this before. The picture taking abilities is only available in the professional level license and with the Mesa unit. So right now we currently only support our Archer unit and our Mesa unit. The Mesa unit has a built-in camera, so you can use that to take pictures of the objects that you're mapping. Now let's go into our object list. Let's just pick an object and to map it. Pick a plant again. Let's say it's a cacti. Let's look at the Apuntia. Okay, so let's say I want to add this cactus somewhere up here. I just want to add without using GPS. So it says tap anywhere on the map to add. So I tapped here. Cacti 1 is fine with me, and I tap on map it. I'm going to stop this mapping and go to menu and go to add points. I want to manually add this Let's just say it's up here somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to tap on Finish. And here's my options for editing the geometry, the attributes, and here's Capture Image. So when I tap on Capture Image, this brings up the camera on my Mesa. My Mesa is sitting on a chair right now, so it should have a good picture of the floor. This might be a little bit choppy, but let me show you how to do this. So right now I've moved it to look at a chair. Let's see if you can see that or not. On the Mesa, it might be a little bit confusing, but to take the picture, the first thing you do is, well, once they have where you can see where you're taking a picture of is, you're going to click on the picture icon button on the top left corner of your Mesa there. And so okay, hang on. When I take that picture, I should hear the little camera click, and once it's taken, I see now where I have my picture is geotagged, and so with a stamp on it. So I have my latitude, my longitude, and also the time and date that it was taken. And so then I click on OK, and I should be back into my main screen here, or my item is. Now, one of the additions of Juniper Aspect from using Intuitrace was having more pictures per part that you can take. And so to do that, I go into my Manage Images, and here's the one I just took a picture of. And if I want to add another picture, I just go to Menu and do Capture Image again. So this will bring up the camera dialog on my Mesa here, and once it shows up looking at the floor, so let's take a picture of the floor. I'm going to click on the camera button, snap the picture. There's my geotag there, and I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm back to seeing the two pictures that I've taken. I have the chair and the floor. And I can take up to 5 pictures per object. If I want to get rid of them, I can click on the checkbox here, go to the menu, and just go to Delete Selected. And so it's as simple as that. I'm going to back out of this, and then I'm going to save this cactus that I mapped. The next thing I want to show you is editing an object that's already mapped. And this is kind of where it gets maybe a little bit higher level on how to do this, but there's 2 ways of doing this. One way is on your mobile device here, mobile software, or on the desktop software. I normally prefer to do it on the desktop software because I feel like I have more control, but there's some advantages of using the mobile software. So let's say this item here, which is my aspen tree, I'm going to tap on this here. Oh, wrong button, sorry. I'm going to cancel it. I'm mapping right now. Cancel. So I need to first click on my Select tool down at the bottom, this arrow. So to edit an object, you have to first select it. So you click on the Select arrow, and you tap on your object. If you have 2 that are kind of on top of each other, they'll bring you a list on which one you want to choose. So let's do the backflow devices to make it more realistic a little bit. And so I want to edit where my backflow device is. So I'm going to tap on my backflow device, and I have options here. I can delete it, I can navigate to it from where I'm standing, or I can edit it. So I'm going to go into Edit. And I'm not concerned about the attributes or the image, but I want to edit where it is. And so let's go to Edit Geometry. This will edit where it actually is. Now there's 2 ways of doing this. You can either place it using GPS or place it manually. And so if I know I'm standing right now currently where the backflow device should be, I'm just going to tap on Capture. It'll go through my mapping process here, this progress bar, and it'll move that from here to here. Okay, so what happens is it'll have the former place still highlighted, and the new place is underneath my green circle here. So you can't see now my GPS moved a little bit. I can see it. So if I'm happy where that is, I'm just going to tap on Finish, and then go to Save. And then it should be changed. So now it's not up here where this tree is anymore. It's down here towards the bottom. So you can see my new backflow device location. Let's say I wanted to edit it without using GPS. This is only really advantageous if you have a background map where you can see where it needs to be, or if you know it needs to be moved up a couple of feet from where you're standing because you had some interference problems or anything else. Or maybe like you have a large tree that is covering the location of the valve you want to map. And so you map outside of that tree boundary, but then you can later go on and move the point to under the tree to be more realistic of where it should be. So I'm going to tap on my backflow device again, and I'm going to choose from the menu here, I'm going to choose Edit. And here I want to edit the geometry again because I want to move where the location is of this device. Now I'm not going to use GPS. I'm not going to use this capture button here. I'm going to go into my menu and then I go to Move Point. So from here I have to first tap on the point I want to move. So now I chose my backflow device. And let's say it's over here in this field. So I tap again to move it. Now you see I have two locations. This one right here, the bottom one, is where it used to be, and this new red one is where I'm moving it to. And that's all you do to move a point. And so I'm going to tap on Finish. And then I want to save this device, or this editing. And once my map comes back up again, you can see that it's no longer on the bottom of the building here. It's been moved over to the side. And that's pretty easy to do with points and such, but I kind of want to show you what to do when you want to edit polygons or coverage areas and things like that. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit to right about here so I can see a little better. I'm going to choose my Select tool here at the bottom, and I'm going to tap on my valve coverage area here, this red area that I mapped earlier, and I'm going to tap on Edit. Now here, I want to edit the coverage. So what it has chosen is the remote control valve. So the valve and the coverage are related to each other. So I just want to edit the coverage area, not the geometry of the valve. So let's go to Edit Coverage. And you can see that the four corners that I've mapped here have little squares so I can move those. But the way to do that, again, I have to go into my menu and then go to Move Point. So if I want to move this point right here, I just tap on it, and then say that I need to stretch it out to over here. I just tap again, and it moves it over there. And you can kind of see how it got moved. If I want to add another vertex or another corner in here, I go to my menu, and I go to Insert Point. And I'm going to tap right here in the middle. So now there's a vertex here, and I want to kind of make this more realistic of how this coverage area looks. I'm going to add one more point. If it'll let me. Insert point right here. Okay, now it's just inserting the same point. Let's move that point now. I want to move this point right here that I just added and put it over here in this corner. So now you can see my coverage area is growing. And one more thing with coverage areas, sometimes it's not uncommon to have multiple locations for one valve coverage area or anything else that might need two areas. So let's say this valve here waters this grass bed here and waters this park strip in the middle. The way to change this is I want to add an area. So I tap on Add Area. And the same thing goes for using GPS or not using GPS. If I'm walking this area, which is more realistic if I was outdoors, I would just tap on Capture, and it'll start mapping where I'm walking. But if I do Capture right now, it's going to be on top of this building. So I want to manually add this area here. So I'm going to add a point, and I'm going to put it right here in the corner. And I'm going to add another point, and then another point. And I'm just going to finish out this square here by adding the fourth point. And you can see it kind of fills in the green area, and tap on Finish. And that's kind of how you would edit a polygon or a line area. And that's also how you would add an additional area as well. So now you can see once I'm finished, you can see this changed, and I have this area added here. And that's kind of about it for about the mobile side of things here. The next thing I want to talk about is some GPS accuracy tips and tricks. But Jim, I wanted to ask you one quick question, if we've had any questions along the way about using the mobile software.
No, I think most of the questions that came up you've answered with editing areas and everything. One request was, could you quickly show them what happens and how you create a new project on the handheld.
Okay, yeah, good idea. So I'm going to close out this one here so I'm finished with what I'm doing. And let's cancel out of this. So I'm back to my main screen here, and I'm just going to tap on New Project. And here it gives me the same options as the desktop does. I had to put in a project name, a location, and who created it. So let's just make this simple and call each one 2. And I also have the options down at the bottom here of adding notes or a job number, but I'm not concerned about those. So I'm going to tap on Create. And what happens is it gives me a blank screen because that's where we are. So it's basically blank. And my GPS is turned on because I had it on from last time. I have the ability to turn it off. And once you have your GPS turned on and you first map a point or map anything, it'll know where you are in the world, basically. So let's just quickly add something just to get a reference of where we are. I'm going to add a plant. Let's add a tree. And why not a Utah juniper tree? So here I have my same thing here. Tap anywhere to add the part. I'm going to tap right here. It gives me coniferous tree 1. That's fine with me. I'm going to map it. So once I map this, I have a really good PDOP and a lot of satellites viewable. And okay, I mapped right here. I'm finished with that. I'm going to tap on Finish. And I can, like I said before, take a picture, add attributes, or anything else. I'm just going to save it because I want to show you one more thing. And so now I have this tree mapped, and it knows where I'm standing, but I don't have much reference of where I am. I don't have a base map or anything. So I can go into my, since I have an active internet connection, I can go into my layers here and turn on my ArcGIS Online imagery here. This might take a little bit of time because it's going to have to pull the base map from the internet, but and based on my Wi-Fi connection as well. So once that finishes, okay, all right, so I have the whole world. That's fantastic. Let's do one more thing. I'm going to add one more, I'm going to map one more part. I'm going to show you a little trick. So let's just add a graph. It doesn't matter what it is. Let's say hypothetically I walked 10 feet away from where I've added that first part. So I'm going to tap anywhere to add this part. It'll bring up the same dialog, map it. Go through my 10 points here, so once it gets to 100%, it should be finished. I'm going to finish that, and then I'm going to save that. So the reason why I want to have at least 2 things mapped is because then I can zoom to my extent. And what that means is it's going to zoom to the full map extent of all my mapped parts. So I have 2 parts mapped, and they're pretty close to each other. It should zoom in right to this building. So it is this magnifying glass with a little broken square thing around it is my zoom to extent button. So once I tap on that, it'll bring me right here. So right now, right on top of the building. So there's my grasses, there's my tree that I mapped. And so that's kind of how you start a project from scratch out in the field. That's the way I would do it. I would map a part where you're standing, map another part, and then zoom to your extent so you can kind of get a better idea of where the parts are mapped. And if you have internet connection in the field, then I'd load that up as well so you can see the background.
Good, appreciate that.
Yeah.
One thing to note on that is that if you do this and you don't have an internet connection in the field, that's not a problem. You can just go ahead and continue to map parts all day long on a blank white screen. A lot of people do that. A lot of people don't want to bother with the imagery when they're mapping certain things. But when you bring it back to the office, plug it into the desktop, it is going to download that data, and it will, on the desktop, lay it over top of the imagery that you select. Darren asked one question about dealing with larger properties.
Okay.
And there's a couple of answers to your questions. If you have a very, very big property, you're going to be limited when you cache the base map to about 3,000 square meters. We set that limit just so that it doesn't take forever and so that you don't run out of space in the handheld. If you wanted to cache base maps for a big, big project, you may have to break them up into several sub-projects. In other words, define a project for each section. However, if you don't want to use background imagery, or if you happen to have an internet connection, either via Wi-Fi or via, by Wi-Fi or by a modem, if you have a modem on your handheld, then you're going to be able to download the base map on the fly that will cover the entire area that you're working on. So that is one of the advantages. If you have a handheld that doesn't have a cell modem on it, you can get one added, or what a lot of people have done is if they have a data plan on their cell phone, they add a tethering function if their provider allows that, and you can communicate using Wi-Fi on the handheld through your cell phone to the internet to get those. All righty.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate the questions and those some good answers and some good options as well. Just to follow up with that, sometimes a lot of folks won't have sufficient imagery no matter what, and what we suggest to do about that is map some, I guess, I don't know what you call them, some ground control points basically. So my advice would be is walk the outline of your property and map that out so you kind of get an idea of where your property boundaries are. And you also map other landmarks that you can see really well, like sidewalks or certain trees or any kind of structures that'll give you a good reference to where you should be standing. That's the way to handle it with mapping with it when you don't have a good source of background imagery. Okay, so to move on quickly here, I'm going to minimize this and go back into my PowerPoint presentation here. And the next thing I want to talk about is some GPS tips and tricks. And we have a document we made that we have on our website. I kind of want to show you how to get to it. So if you go to juniperassist.com, go under Products and look at Juniper Aspect, and scroll to the bottom, you'll see a document called GPS Tips and Tricks. And let me bring that up real quick so I can just show it to you. That's not it. Okay, so from our website here, this is juniperassist.com. I go under Products and go to Juniper Aspect Field Mapping Solutions. And open this up. Now I'm going to scroll towards the bottom here. And down at the bottom, you see something called GPS Tips and Tricks. This is a PDF document you can download from our website. Let's save it so I can open it. This kind of gives you some good scenarios on what to do and how to get the best GPS accuracy. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I just kind of want to go over a couple of things real quick just to explain to you. Number one problem people get are obstructions, and so you need to have a clear view of the sky. So that means if you have a tree on top, above you, you won't have a clear view of the sky. If you're mapping under an overhang or an awning, you won't have a clear view of the sky. So you need to be out in the open of a clear view of the sky. And other things can obstruct your path as well, like your body can actually create an obstruction. So some advice we get to some people is when you're mapping, try to have the unit not very close to your body. You can hold it out from your body a little bit, maybe at an arm's length, and that'll alleviate some of the interferences you're getting due to your body being in the way. Another problem we see a lot is multipath or signal reflection. This commonly happens when you're close to any kind of tall structures, mostly buildings, houses, offices, things like that. When you're mapping next to a building or anything that's going to create some kind of interference, the GPS point is probably going to bounce around a lot, and you'll see some stuff you shouldn't be seeing. A good indication is if you're next to some tall building, if you're in a downtown area of a big city, and you see you're getting 12 out of 12 satellites, that's meaning that you're not getting 12 out of 12 satellites. It's repeating some of the satellite signals to your GPS unit, and it'll cause interference, and it'll give you less accurate GPS position, and that's kind of due to the signal reflection of the radio waves from the GPS satellites. And one other thing to look at is map error. Not every map is in the same projection as the map that you're using or the map that you're wanting to use. And so lots of times map error can cause you to be off by several feet, if not meters, just because it's not the right projection. So defaultly, our system and GPS satellites use the WGS84 projection. That's basically the World Geodetic Survey for what all GPS satellites use. And most of the time, if you're going to be using a local map, it'll be in the local projection. So just due to your local area, just so the map can be more accurate to be in place where it's supposed to be on the planet. And those are just some things to think about when you're using GPS mapping or any kind of mapping, is those three things. And just in general, GPS, like I said before, is kind of an art. And so the more you use it, the more you figure out some of the intricacies of it and figuring out how to alleviate some problems you're seeing. And one more thing I want to talk about is when you first get to a new area that you haven't been to before, or GPS hasn't been to before, is it's good to turn your unit on and turn the GPS on and let it sit for, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes. What this does, it allows your unit to collect an almanac of GPS satellite data. A lot of the problems we see is if someone will go to an area for the first time, turn the unit on, and just try to start mapping, and they'll get back into the office and they'll notice their points are way off from where they're supposed to be. It's because they didn't let the GPS unit have enough time to collect an almanac of satellite data. And so the first couple of points they mapped were off quite a bit, and if they tried to go and navigate back to those points, they'd be navigating to an incorrect area. So it's always good to allow 10 to 15, sometimes even 20 minutes just to let your GPS unit just sit and collect data out in the open, just to know where it's at. It's just initially at a certain area. Once you have that almanac collected, then you're free to map and you're good to go normally. And coming back to my presentation here, oops, that's not it. Sorry. Another thing I want to show you from our website as well is we've created a training page, and we're going to be hosting. Once this webinar is over, I'm going to be recording this and putting it onto our YouTube channel, and also we'll host it or embed it onto our website. And so you can look at it again. We're going to be adding more content as we go along. And I just kind of want to show you how to get to this training page here. So if you go to junipersys.com, it's our home page. Under the Support tab, go to Training, and under Training there's the Juniper Aspect tab. And let's just look at that real quick. So I'm going to scroll to the top here. Under Support, go to Training. And under here is where we're going to be having these videos hosted. So this is the Juniper Aspect tab. This is the webinar we did last month that we have hosted on here. You can view it, click on some table of contents, and later on we post this webinar on here. So this is kind of a good place, a reference to go for some training purposes. Back to the presentation here. And there's one last thing. Contact information is right here. If you need to get a hold of us, you can either send us an email at support@junipersys.com or give us a call. You can ask for just basically tech support for Juniper Aspect mapping. And Jim, do we have any last-minute questions?
No, I think we've covered it all.
Okay, it sounds good, and I appreciate everybody attending. And like I said before, if you have any questions after the fact, you can always email me here, and we'll have these slides posted to our website at some point. And so you can click on these links. It's easier to get to. The links I have here before, let me go back a couple of screens here. This link goes directly to our training page, and on this page here, this short link goes directly to this PDF document. So if you want to write this down, but again, like I said, this will be posted on our website, and it'll be easier to access it from there. And I appreciate everybody's time, and hope you all have a good day.